help him. What's the one thing we've got to shut off in this kid? Say hip flexors. Because if you don't shut off the hip flexors, he can't ventilate. Well, how are you going to shut off hip flexors? Are you going to stretch them out? No. You got to shut off what's attached to the crew of the diaphragm? Hip flexors. As long as the crew of the diaphragm says, guys, I don't need you down there anymore. I'm doing just fine up here in my new ZOA state. I'm doing fine up here. I don't have to pull the lumbar spine forward anymore to breathe. For some reason, somebody put my ribs back down where they're supposed to be, and now this chest wall just opened up. I don't need you. I'll call you when I need you. The hip flexor tone does what then, Stephanie? Drops off. And now he can sit up, and now he can lay there, and he's not so what? Restricted. So here's little Owen. He comes in. Mom is not his problem. Pain is not the problem. Owen is not the problem. Owen has no problems. Owen doesn't even know why he's there.
In a young kid like this, how long a process does that take relative to somebody who's 60-something years old and real tied down?
Don, do you think everybody heard that question? Think so? So the answer to the question is how long is it going to take? Until Owen is in command and control with what? His ventilation. And Owen has control and command of his ventilatory system. That's probably going to take maybe until he's 19. Some kids maybe when 16. Some kids it could be tomorrow. He has to have command of his ventilation. He has to power up. He has to rotate. He has to figure out how to do that. Some kids never. But you know what? Kids are pretty cool to work with. They'll do it. They have a way to get around it. They can cheat. They can do it. A 30-year-old one, different story. Different story. That's why I'm passionate about these Owens. This kid needs balloons, not to blow up. You're going to see it in a minute. To lift him. And I want to put 3 on the right side and 2 on the left. Don't you? Because Owen has no balloons inside of him. Owen is dead. He can't breathe. I want to jack him up on the right side, 3 lobes, 3 balloons. And I want to jack him up on the left side, 2 lobes, 2 balloons. And I want those balloons to constantly have to do what every time he moves? Give. And I want him to feel elevated. That's what I want Owen to do. Owen's ability to rotate his trunk. Trunk rotation, when I lay you up here, Linda, and I've laid somebody up here and I move your legs to the right, that's left trunk rotation. Everybody appreciate that? When I turn your legs to the left, that's right trunk rotation. In left trunk rotation, which means his legs are going to the right, he has somewhere around 8 inches of height between the surface of the bed he's laying on and the top of his knees that are maximally flexed. So he has lots of left trunk rotation. You understand that? Owen, when he takes his trunk to the right and his legs to the left, has only 13.5 inches. Well, Ron, are you sure you get this right? 13.5 inches is a lot more than 8 inches. No, 13.5 inches means he can't rotate. So Owen can't rotate his trunk to which direction? The right. Owen needs 3 big balloons in which side of his body? The right side. So he can take his trunk to the right as well as he can take his trunk to the what? Left. Owen can't internally rotate his right arm. Look at this. Look at his little rib cage. Way up in the air. He can rotate his left. This rib cage is closer to his ear. This rib cage is closer to his hip. That's why this arm can go down and this one cannot. And we are going to go over the reasoning behind that test. This took us 1 day, Jen, right? Did I do this right? 1 day, maybe longer, to get this all written up the way we think it should be presented under test results, which is now in your manual, which I'll cover later. But if you just look at the picture, can Owen rotate his trunk symmetrically? The answer would be no. Can Owen turn his arms equally on both sides? No. Can Owen take his right leg up and his left leg up? His right leg's going a little bit more than his left, but he isn't even close to 90 degrees. So you know Owen's what? Lordotic. He can't, his slack in his leg is gone because his pelvis is too far forward. Owen, my goodness, you can drop your right leg down all the way to the mat and your left leg looks like it lacks 45 degrees of extension and more. Which pelvis is more forward on Owen? The left. Now, if I took Owen's femur on the left side and matched it up to the acetabulum, it would just drop just fine. But I'm doing your conventional test. That's Myokin 101. But Owen is not a symmetrical animal. Forget the reasoning why the tests are positive. On everything I've showed you so far, does he have any symmetry to his name? That means Owen's stuck. Owen is stuck into one side of his body. He's stuck. He can't do what? Alternate. He can't reciprocate. He's stuck. And as he's trying to get it, as he's trying to do it, he's getting more and more and more what? Extended. His back's getting what? Flatter. His diaphragm's getting what? Flatter. His kyphosis is getting worse. See the thoracic? And his hip flexors never shut off, especially on which side? Left. And that's all he can round out his back. Look how far he is. He's what, 9, 10 inches away from that floor. Standing reach test. A guy like that should be palming the floor. I'm giving you Owen because he's an extreme case. Oh, here's another one. He can't horizontally adduct one arm. He can on the other side. We'll go over the reason why that's occurring. Owen, you look like you need some balloons inside of you. So, Mom, can you come over here? We're going to put your son in a 90-90 position. We're going to help him find his left hamstring to pull that pelvis back. And I'm going to have you then, Owen, take this balloon, put it in your mouth. Don't chew it, swallow, eat it, or spit it out. And Mom, could you put your hand on that left side for opposition, which before lunch we talked about was needed for apposition. And Mom, would you make sure that every time Owen breathes in to fill up this balloon, on the next breath out, you keep your hand firmly positioned on that rib cage. Now, Owen has no problem with this. He takes a breath of air in. Mom, do you have to push so hard? He blows out. She takes up the slack. You breathe in. Mom, that was a lot easier. You're pushing as hard, push harder. And she didn't push any harder than she did the last time. Well, why did it get easier? Because of one word. Here he repositioned himself. One word. The right side just went in a state of rotation up. That's external rotation. He just went on the other side. We put some balloons in his right side. We repositioned him on the right side. We repositioned him on the left side. He's now in the other cycle of gait. Shirley Sarman once said, faulty training only accentuates the muscular neurological contributions to the habitual imbalance. Faulty training. Totally agree with that. Most often the faulty movement patterns are an exaggeration in one direction. Man, I totally agree with that. Of a limitation in another direction. So Owen's inability, his limitation was his issue. And until he gets that limitation back, anything you look at, it's kind of a waste of time. Depending on who you're talking about. But in this case, Owen. There's a book that just came out of the market by Doig, and I encourage you just to just peruse it. I love this book. I like reading about behavior, and I threw it in the slide because I recommend that if you guys really want to understand habit and you want to understand Owens of the world and these little kids walking around you, which are now, you used to be gay, a little kid. I still consider you a little kid. You're a little kid until you're neutral. You're a little kid until you're neutral. You're definitely a little kid until you're neutral. Because I don't care how much age you have under your body, you're a little kid because you don't know what it's like to be neutral and free, like a little kid should. I'm going to make you a little kid. I'm going to bring you back a few years. I don't care how much hair you don't have or what color it is. But I'm going to make sure that you know there's a reward. A reward. Because if you don't get a reward, that habit is not going away. That parafunctional habit is not going to change. I want to make sure that you feel good in your age, like a little kid. I want you to feel not your age. Now let's flip the coin around. These little kids feel like they're 90 years old. They can't breathe. And they're saying, why can't I throw a ball? Why can't I stay up with my buddies? Why is my knee pain so bad? Why am I short of breath? They have aged so quick. Does that make sense? I'm not going to wait till they get to that age when they need it, when they say, wow, you did amazing work with me. I feel like I'm a little kid. Those little kids really want to be little kids. They really want that rotation. Put a balloon in their mouth. Maybe a bag of them every week. You use them once, you throw it away. And you keep them on which leg when they blow? The left. That's why you saw Owen's right leg in the air. Because all I want Owen to feel is left. Does that make sense? So, habit. It's a big deal. It's real. You got the biggest habit in the world going on in you, you don't even know it. You like your right diaphragm. Okay? That's a big habit. Polyarticular chains on page 6. They'll say sending part of the trapezius covers the insertion of the lat, and that's a polyarticular chain. And contraction of polyarticular chains usually result in things getting shorter. A muscle chain is a polyarticular chain. Muscles that lay on top of each other. I've cut a lot of diaphragms up in my life. The last few years I have not been, I have no time. But I've cut at least, I think, last time I counted was 16, I know, maybe 17. And I have not yet cut into a diaphragm screw without taking psoas meat. You guys understand that? Now that's years ago. But I don't think anybody in this room is going to be able to take a diaphragm off a vertebrae without taking leg muscle with it. You have those things going on all over your body. When you move one muscle, there's going to be a response in another muscle. If you have any PNF left in you, go back and look at it. Okay? PNF. So I really want to make sure those polyarticular chains you know about. On pages 6 through 7, I'm not going to read all that, but in your manual you have some classification of movement patterns on page, I believe, is that 7? And when you have an overview of classification of movement dysfunction patterns. And I would encourage you, even those people at home, to take your time and go through that. You would be wise if you did pick a few of these things out on page 7 and look into it. So you know that PRI is not that unique. I mean, these things have been going on to some extent in a lot of other areas that have touched a lot of this, but maybe not have touched it the way and the manner we're going about it. So you feel better about it. Your skepticism should be high until you start reading page 7. Does that make sense? So take a look at some of those other ways to approach things. That's all I'm going to say about page 6 and 7. We're back to this polyarticular chain comment. These are two polyarticular chains. They're the same muscles. The one on your left is an optimal chain. That is during mid-stance of gait, when you should be in a state of neutrality. When I get into this right leg and I start to bring my left leg forward, I would hope that I'm in that state. My left side is going to be in that chain. Then I take a step forward, I'm going to be neutral. My right side is going to be in that state. I take a step forward, my right side's now neutral, my left side's in that state. If I stay in that state, how about this? I know you're in that state. More so than not. Your ribs would then be up on which side? The left. If I stay in that state, Kurt, I'm neutral on the right, I picked up my left leg, my right hand went forward, my upper body is turned to the left, and I'm in right stance. You don't have to worry about the acronyms. Right AFIR, throw it out. Right internal rotation, throw it out. Think of your old gait days. Mid stance. heel, strike. End of swing